Thanks for the lavish gift. Darlin'. Mark smirked as he sauntered into the family room, flinging his designer shades onto the side table. He posed there, radiating arrogance in his custom-fitted blazer and spotless leather boots, his bags overflowing with premium brands, business class to Italy, upscale resorts. This is the existence I've been craving. Lisa, I couldn't hold back my chuckle. What's so amusing? He barked, his brow furrowing. Oh, Mark, I replied, wiping a tear from my eye. You have absolutely no clue what you've set in motion. My name is Lisa, and I'm 35 years old. I specialize in digital protection, and for the past 8 years, I've been wed to a guy who proved to be a bundle of warning signals wrapped in charisma. Mark was forever the silver-tongued visionary, the type who spun every notion into a genius strategy. In contrast, I was the one turning those ideas into reality, maintaining a reliable job. As he jumped from one poorly thought out venture to another, I overlooked the red flags, the hidden finances, the endless justifications for his unemployment, since I longed to trust that we were partners. But at 3 a.m. last week, Mark committed an error he couldn't sweet talk his way past. I'd been dozing in the bedroom when it occurred. He likely waited until he believed I was deeply asleep before creeping downstairs to my computer. My expertise in online safety had trained me to monitor for possible threats, yet I never imagined applying those abilities within my own house. That evening, Mark logged into my device to grab info from one of my payment cards. He jotted down the numbers, took some quick photos on his mobile, and slipped back under the covers as if all was normal. The following day, over my tea, I spotted a barrage of notifications on my device. I launched my finance application and discovered almost $45,000 in expenditures. High-fashion apparel, luxury timepieces, premium tickets to Rome. My gut twisted as the truth dawned on me. Mark was responsible, naturally. But rather than freaking out, I grinned. The account he'd targeted wasn't my private one. It was a test card connected to a simulation I conduct at my job. It's meant to educate firms on spotting and handling deceit. Each purchase activates an instant warning that heads directly to law enforcement. Mark had unwittingly made himself a textbook example. I phoned my attorney, Rachel, right away that morning. You won't believe this. I shared detailing the whole ordeal. She burst into giggles. Hold on, let me make sure I understand, she said amid snickers. He swiped a fake card, the one hooked to scam monitoring. Precisely, I confirmed, my tone steady yet laced with triumph. I doubt he grasped the implications. He likely figured he was outsmarting everyone. He's an idiot, Rachel declared. Each expense will get red flagged. Have the officials reached out yet? Not so far, but it's inevitable. Throughout the following days, I kept silent, observant how deeply Mark would dig his hole. He scribbled a message on the fridge a few days on, heading out for a bit of alone time. Don't stay up. I knew precisely what that implied. He was splurging with the pilfered funds on an extravagant getaway. Nightly, I monitored the scam notices piling up, fancy eateries, elite lodgings, and lavish buying binges. Every ping was a tiny win. 4 days into his extravaganza, I received a ring from Detective Harris, a national agent handling the matter. We've detected major deceptive actions linked to your profile, he stated. Do you have any idea who could be involved? Absolutely, I answered firmly, my spouse. There was a short silence. Your spouse? I laid out the scenario, noting that the card was part of a digital safety initiative. Detective Harris let out a soft chuckle. That's a fresh twist, he remarked. You'll have to submit an official report, but from what we've already noted, he's in deep water. When Mark finally strutted back inside, his self-importance boosted by days of excess, I was prepared. He wandered into the family room as if nothing was amiss, decked out in his ill-gotten gains. Thanks for the splurge, he quipped with a smug leer. You truly went all out. Laughter escaped me again. Mark scowled, obviously anticipating rage. What's the joke? He demanded, his pitch rising. Oh, Mark, I said, shaking my head. The truth is about to hit you hard. Mark let his upscale suitcase thud to the ground with a cocky flare. Honestly, Lisa, he continued, peeling off his elegant coat and tossing it over the armchair. You ought to have clued me in on that account sooner. Picture the adventures we could have shared. I rested against the counter, arms folded. And how did you envision this plan out? He grinned, slipping off his footwear. You're forever so rigid with cash. It's not as if we lack the means. I assumed you'd forgive it once you noticed my joy. His blatant nerve might have enraged me if it weren't so pitiful. I stifled another laugh, aware that each boast was sealing his fate. So, the jewelry, the journeys, the sweets, you believe that was all courtesy of me? Not believed, he shot back, gesturing to himself. Knew it. It's high time you relaxed. I offered a strained smile that revealed 0. I'll wager on that. Once Mark vanished into the bath, crooning some irritating melody, I grabbed my phone and messaged Rachel. He's returned, set to proceed. Her response came swiftly. Excellent. I'll notify Detective Harris. In the prior days, Rachel and Detective Harris had been assembling the evidence against Mark. His every action was traced, each expense carefully recorded, from the posh shops to the opulent stays in Rome. His overindulgence depicted a man who deemed himself invincible. Mark was clueless about the pit he'd excavated. Detective Harris had promised me the scam signals from the mock profile had sparked a thorough probe. We'll summon him for interrogation when you're set. He'd mentioned in our recent chat, but I'd suggest allowing him to stumble into it naturally. The more overconfident he is, the smoother it goes. Now, as I heard Mark's tuneless warbling from the shower, a bizarre tranquility washed over me. For ages, I'd permitted him to exploit my faith, my generosity, my security. But this instance, he was poised to confront the repercussions of undervaluing me. After Mark reappeared swathed in a soft robe and beaming as if life was perfect, he collapsed onto the sofa. You should have witnessed Rome, he enthused, fishing a gleaming silver bracelet from his pack. The boutiques, the bistros, it was pure fantasy. Sounds marvelous, I responded, hovering in the entryway. Elaborate. He dove into a vivid recount of his week of excess, with dramatic flourishes and pointless anecdotes about the wine at some skyline lounge. Each phrase was like a self-incriminating statement he didn't recognize. Unbeknownst to him, I was capturing the whole exchange on my device, the recording primed for Detective Harris. And the highlight, Mark proclaimed, displaying the bracelet. No one had a hint, not even you. The next day, Rachel and I convened over tea to lock in the schedule. He's defenseless, she noted, reviewing the proof we'd gathered, the scam warnings, the bills, his chat from yesterday. It's ironclad. Detective Harris is prepared to haul him in. They're syncing with local forces for the apprehension. I agreed. The burden finally easing. What follows? He'll confront various accusations like deceit, impersonation, and illicit access to funds, Rachel clarified. With the sum at stake, it won't be minor. In his best outcome, he bargains and dodges prison. Worst. He's facing extended time. A fragment of me yearned for pity. But recalling his arrogant smirk, the way he paraded his looted items without regard for the harm, erased it. This wasn't a mere slip. It was a cycle of greed and privilege I'd ignored too long. That night, as Mark reclined on the sofa, browsing his device, a distinct rap echoed at the entrance. My pulse quickened, not from dread, but eagerness. I approached and swung it open to find Detective Harris and 2 patrolmen on the stoop. Evening, Ms. Thompson, Harris greeted, his manner efficient yet kind. Is Mark present? He's just inside. I said, moving aside. Come on in. Mark glanced up from his screen, his forehead creasing in bewilderment. What's this about? He inquired. Straightening, Detective Harris neared him with a steady command that shrank the space. Mark Thompson, you're being probed for several instances of payment fraud and improper financial access. We need you to accompany us for inquiry. Mark's complexion drained, his assurance vanishing. What? No, this must be an error, he stuttered, turning to me for aid. Lisa, explain to them this is nonsense. I folded my arms, cocking my head. I don't know, Mark. You've been quite occupied recently. Perhaps you should clarify it yourself. As the officers recited his rights and guided him out, Mark kept objecting. You can't pull this, Lisa. This is a trap. You're my partner. Aren't you meant to back me? Odd, I remarked, propping against the frame. I figured partners didn't pilfer from each other. Guess we're both gaining insight today. Mark shot me a glare. His swagger swapped for panic. You won't escape this. I grinned. Oh, Mark? I already did. The door clicked shut firmly as the officers led Mark away, rendering the family room strangely hushed. I lingered there briefly, gazing at the vacant spot where he'd lounged moments before. My heart pounded, not from alarm, but from the gravity of it all. He was out, at last, irreversibly. Yet this wasn't concluded. Roughly an hour on, Rachel rang. He's with Detective Harris now, she informed, her voice composed but resolute. They've begun the grilling. From what Harris shared, Mark's attempting to twist the narrative his way. Naturally, I replied, sighing, betting he's portraying himself as the injured party. Exactly, Rachel chuckled wryly. He's alleging you authorized the card's use, but fret not with the alerts, the expenditures, and your audio. He's sunk. The subsequent morning, Detective Harris updated me. We've secured all required, he stated. Your spouse, pardon, impending ex, confessed to employing the card, but swears he was unaware of its scam link. He's pinning the confusion on you. Typical, I said, reclining. What's next? We're advancing with the allegation, Harris detailed. He's up against counts of deceit and unauthorized financial handling. Considering the figure, he'll encounter substantial penalties. The safeguard systems marked his posh buys. So those are refunded. You're not accountable for a dime. The solace was swift and profound. For days, I'd borne the load of Mark's deeds, fearing he'd evade somehow. But now, sensing Harris's assurance, I grasped my total triumph. Thanks for all, I expressed. No need, Harris replied. This matter practically resolved itself. You managed it masterfully. The repercussions struck Mark fiercer than anticipated. News circulated fast among shared contacts about his detention, and soon his polished facade as the affable, easygoing mate started eroding. Emily, the lady I guessed he'd been involved with, evidently cut ties the instant she learned of the charges. The upscale items he'd shown off were seized, the reservations canceled, and his finances locked. One night, an unknown caller appeared against wisdom. I picked up, and it was Mark. Lisa, he started, his tone subdued and weary. I must speak with you. I laughed. Mark, the sole task ahead is clarifying to the court. Please, he shifted to pleading. I erred. All right, I didn't intend for it to escalate. Just what? I cut in. I see. Just aiming to siphon $45,000 from me? Just expecting I'd overlook it? Just counting on my naivety or mercy to halt you? Silence stretched on the line. At last, he whispered, I believed you cared for me. I exhaled sharply, fury surging. I did. Mark, I cared for who I imagined you were, but the individual who robbed me, deceived me, assumed he could evade. That's not anyone I could cherish. Before he replied, I ended the call. A week later, Rachel confirmed Mark took a bargain. He's skirting incarceration, she noted, but must repay every bit he attempted to take, plus perform public duty. and his finances will be wrecked for ages. Fitting, I remarked. He craved opulence. Now he experiences the flip side. Rachel chuckled. You're coping far superior than many. It's odd, I said, grinning inwardly. For years, I viewed Mark as the glue in our union. I thought his allure, drive, grand schemes propelled us. But now it's evident. I upheld it all. He was mere baggage. The day the separation decree arrived, I uncorked some champagne and lounged on the sofa, surveying the space that now was entirely mine. Mark's void wasn't a deficit, it was a boon, a shot to reconstruct sans his perpetual ego cloud. As I savored the drink, I recalled his entrance, displaying his swap treasures and taunting me for the alleged boost he'd claimed. He'd been so assured, so convinced of his wit. And now he footed the bill for the first time in ages. I sensed genuine liberty. This wasn't merely a union's close, it was a fresh era I could claim wholly. The place grew oddly serene, post Mark's detention. His belongings vanished, what he hadn't pawned or crammed into his fancy case. But the area seemed airier, as if his disloyalty's burden had lifted tangibly. For the first time in years, I could relax in my residence without his presence hovering. Rachel visited one afternoon with concluding forms. How's it going? She queried, perching on the sofa with her typical straightforwardness. Better than expected, I confessed, passing her a mug of tea. It's peculiar, but anger's absent, just ease. She grinned sagely. That's 'cause you've triumphed. You didn't merely endure. Lisa, you emerged tougher. I pondered that while we reviewed the papers, settling Mark's repayment details. It transcended funds. Though his restitution was gratifying, it concerned reclaiming autonomy. For years, I'd allowed Mark to steer our bond, deeming it simpler to maintain harmony. But now I saw that harmony rooted in yielding and quiet wasn't true serenity. The formal dissolution notice came a week on in a plain packet that seemed too modest for such gravity. I gripped it momentarily, absorbing its significance, then ripped it apart. My gaze skimmed the legalese till spotting the key terms. Concluded and unchangeable. I settled at the dining spot, document in grasp, permitting a scarce introspective pause. This wasn't the path I'd envisioned wedding Mark. I'd foreseen steadiness, collaboration, a tomorrow on shared faith. But now, eyeing the dwelling I'd remade, I knew I possessed superior liberty, insight, and awareness of my underestimated resilience. Sophia dropped by that night with bubbly and my preferred delivery. To fresh starts, she toasted, lifting her flute, and to the total mess you escaped. I chuckled, tapping glasses, to never accepting less than my worth. In ensuing weeks, I began shaping my renewed existence. I revamped the place, infusing hues and elements that echoed me. I at last embarked on the lone trip I'd yearned for, wandering shores and absorbing tranquility born from temporary detachment. Mark attempted contact a few more instances, via shared friends, fuzzy regrets and messages, even a comically oblivious note asserting transformation. But I ignored them. No words remained. He'd chosen, so had I. Sporadically, I'd catch wind of his status through rumors. He grappled for employment, his name stained by the deceit claims. He'd relocated with kin, still grasping that charm could rescue him. Pity evaded me. If aught, relief prevailed. He wasn't my issue. A month post-finalization, I lingered by the window with morning brew, observing the town awaken. Sunbeams flooded the family room, accenting the new layer of paint, my cherished teal. The area no longer resembled a conflict zone. It was sanctuary, tranquil, mine, brimming with potential. I reflected on the odyssey here. For years, I'd trusted matrimony's vow, the notion of forging with Mark. I'd silenced the inner murmur hinting discord, alerting his appeal masked avarice. But now I comprehended. Departing wasn't defeat, it was fortitude. Sophia and I gathered for lunch that weekend, a budding custom since Mark's departure. Over cocktails and pancakes, she posed, "So, what's ahead?" I beamed, a blend of thrill and serenity long absent. Frankly, just me focused now. Career thrives, and I've pondered an extended getaway, perhaps a serene hill spot. She hoisted her drink. "That's music to my ears. You merit it." For the first time in ages, choices were purely mine. No concessions, no doubts, just liberty to exist independently. At times, I'd still receive Mark updates from contacts. He floundered rebuilding, hop-in menial roles while settling debts. The fine attire and lavish escapes were history, supplanted by stark truth he wasn't ready for. I didn't linger on it. Choices were his, mine too. His final outreach was a lengthy, self-lamenting message, more woe than remorse. I skimmed briefly before erasing. Reply free. Closure from him. Unneeded, I discovered it within. One dusk, I perched on the patio with wine, musing on my trials, disloyalty, sorrow, struggle to reclaim mine. It culminated here, and though tough, rewarding. I harbored no rage or resentment toward events, if anything, appreciation. Mark's treachery compelled facing my power, ceasing yields, prioritizing self. I'd mastered instinct, trust, independence value, never yielding life's control again. As urban glows twinkled afar, I lifted my glass to the stars. To me, I murmured, to renewal, and thus I sealed Mark's era forever, poised for whatever followed.